Welcome back to Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ollie Hayes, and today I'm bringing the Everton news 24/7 for Tuesday, the 3rd of June. So, as you can kind of imagine, today's news is largely centered around the transfer window. Obviously, it opened on the 1st of June and shuts again on the 10th of June and then reopens after the Club World Cup. So, it's no surprises where the bulk of the news is coming from today, and it's from the rumour mill of the transfer market. But we'll start with today's headline, and it comes from Keep over in France, and they've reported our interest in Burnley centre half Maxim Esteev, with Bayern Munich and Crystal Palace also interested. Just before I give you my thoughts, we did an X poll, and of around 750 votes, 66% of you were in favour, 29% were unsure, and 5% were against. So it's pretty unanimous that Evertonians want to see him at the football club. Maxim Esteev, he's had a decent season with Burnley, obviously after his first season in the Premier League under Vincent Kompany. Stayed at Burnley, playing his trade in the Championship, and has been pretty instrumental in their return to the Premier League, playing alongside Egan Riley, who's obviously a free agent, who I talked about in recent weeks. Maxime Esteev, I think I'd be quite happy to see him join the football club. I think he's quite an assured defender. He's solid. I think if we were to sell the likes of Jared Branthwaite, which I'll get onto Jared Branthwaite news very shortly in this video, if we were to sell the likes of him, I think he's a decent replacement. But again, if you're adding into an already quality full centre back pairing of Branthwaite, O'Brien, Tarkowski, and even Michael Keane if he stays, I think it's a decent addition. Whether it happens for a sensible fee is a different one, but I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on because it's a name that definitely keeps cropping up in the rumour mill of the transfer window. But as I said, staying at centre half, Paddy Boyland and Simon Johnson of The Athletic, they've reported that Jarrad Branthwaite is not for sale this summer by Everton, with the latter also reporting that Chelsea are not currently considering him as an option in the summer transfer window. Now, this comes with a contradicting report of Fraser Fletcher of Team Talk. He's contradicted this slightly by saying that there was interest from Chelsea. However, the £70 million fee is the stumbling block for the West London side, and that's why nothing really has materialised on Chelsea's interest there. But again, it just shows that Everton aren't really open for business with Jarrad Branthwaite. I think it's a very positive stance that Everton are taking. Maybe in recent seasons that we would have been in a position that we have to sell due to PSR reasons, but now I feel like we're in a very positive situation where we don't have to sell our top players. We can really build around our top players. And as I said before, Paddy Boyland and Simon Johnson of The Athletic reporting that Everton aren't open for business and he's currently not for sale this summer. I think it's massive news. It's huge news. So long may it continue. And fingers crossed we do keep hold of him for the duration of the summer and we can build around him and look positively into next season. But elsewhere, Sky Sports News, they've reported our interest in Sunderland right back Trey Hume, along with Wolves and a number of La Liga clubs. Just before we get into my thoughts, we did an X poll of you Evertonians of around 1,000 votes. 50% were in favour, 42% were unsure, and 8% were against. So again, it's pretty unanimous that in some form or other that you want to see Trey Hume to the football club. He's the right age, 23 years old. He's a good profile. I think he'd be a good squad player. I think he'd be a decent addition. But obviously, as we know, Sunderland getting promoted from the Championship to the Premier League this season through the playoff final, they're going to be commanding more of a fee for these kind of players than maybe what they would have done if they were still in the Championship. So again, I think as I said before, it's a decent profile, a good squad player, and a decent addition to the squad. But whether the price tag that Sunderland will command for him reflects his ability and his place in Everton's squad remains to be seen. So again, wait and see with that one. But it's the first time I've really seen Trey Hume's name come up in the rumour mill for Everton. So one definitely to keep an eye on. But moving away from the defence now, moving into midfield, Ben Jacobs has reported our interest in Yves Bissouma of Spurs. 28 Premier League experience, featured 28 times this season for Spurs. So he's definitely got that experience in the middle of the park for a decent outfit. Well, what was a decent outfit in Tottenham Hotspur. But obviously they do have Champions League football now. So whether they're looking to maybe boost their profile and get some different players in and look to dispose of the likes of Yves Bissouma, it could be an area that Everton can capitalise on. But I do think there's a player in there. I think he's maybe fallen a little bit foul of Spurs' failure in recent seasons. So if he were to move away and start a new challenge, I think Everton could be a decent place for him to thrive. He was obviously fantastic during his time at Brighton, and that was obviously what earned him his move to Tottenham Hotspur. So if we can unlock that potential and unlock that ability of Yves Bissouma in an Everton shirt, that would be fantastic. But again, it's only initial interest at the moment, reported by Sky Sports News. So another one just to wait and see. Away from incoming players now, The Athletic have reported that Manchester City's Director of Scouting and Recruitment team, James Smith, is a contender for a role at Everton under this new reshaped recruitment setup at Everton under David Moyes and Angus Kinnear. We're kind of going away from the Director of Football model under the Freaking Group, so James Smith could potentially have a role at Everton. The Athletic have reported that there's no agreement yet, but I'm pretty sure he did work under David Moyes at Everton during David Moyes' first tenure. So there's clearly a relationship there. There's clearly a positive relationship there. So if an agreement was to be made between the clubs, I think he would hit the ground running straight away and come into Everton and make some real positive changes. But now for some news from the academy, and this one comes in the form of under-21 midfielder Francis Gomez. He's received his first call-up to the Gambia national side to face Equatorial Guinea and Uganda this month. Seems to be going along quite nicely in the academy for me. Obviously, he had a little bit of a stop-start loan at Lyon last season, but now seems to be going along nicely in the academy. So long may it continue. But as I said before, getting that first call up is a big thing for his career. So congratulations to him. Fingers crossed he can kick on and, maybe potentially go out on a loan again this season or even break into the first team. These things have happened in academy players, but definitely positive that he's got his first call up to the Gambia national side. And then finally, the club have confirmed a couple of pre-season friendlies for the upcoming season. This includes a Tuesday night trip to Accrington Stanley, who are obviously a League One side, so that'll be a little bit of a decent test. And then also a a Tuesday night trip to League One side Accrington Stanley, and then a Saturday afternoon trip to Ewood Park on the 19th of July to face Blackburn Rovers. So again, stepping up our preparation for the new seasons with a pretty decent outfit to play. Obviously, Blackburn Rovers just missing out on the playoffs in the Championship this season, so they'll be looking to beat Everton, as will Accrington Stanley. So it's two very good tests. And I think alongside the trip to the US in the Premier League Summer Series, I think it really is nice to see that we're playing some proper teams, having some proper tests in pre-season rather than playing, your likes of your Prestons and Salford Cities that maybe weren't giving us much of a test last summer than what we needed, and going into a new season where we had to be physical, we had to be, right on our game from minute one. Maybe those tests weren't, enough to really prepare us for that new season, but it's positive that we're getting some plans now in place for the new season's pre-season. As I said before, obviously Accrington Stanley and Blackburn Rovers are the two latest sides to be confirmed as our opponents in pre-season. But that wraps up today's news for Tuesday the 3rd of June. Let me know your thoughts on the potential incomings of the likes of Maxim Esteev, Trey, Hume, and also let me know your thoughts on the potential of Jared Branthwaite leaving the club being getting smaller and smaller. Obviously, Paddy Boylan and Simon Johnson both confirming that Everton aren't open for business with Jared Branthwaite and he is not for sale this summer. But that is all from me today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.